business travel could be very exciting. It's also extremely unpredictable. We're going to talk about what you and your organization, your people could do to make sure you're prepared to travel anywhere in the world. Team, what do you think people, organizations struggle with the most when building out a travel risk management plan?
I'll let you take this one, Jake.
What are they missing?
Sometimes it's the plan altogether,
Right.
Fair.
but usually it's having the capability to measure risk geographically in a manner that provides enterprise-wide preparedness. Now, there's a lot in that, so I can unpack it a little bit. There's a lot of capabilities out there that, provide geographic risk information. State Department, if, organizations don't invest in a private provider, like a company, a lot of companies do that. But having the ability to identify the risk for every traveler at a baseline, like what is the requirements for measuring or addressing risk regardless of where travelers go, and then here's the requirements for if they go to an increased risk environment, the approvals process for that. But then it's in the process of getting that travel booked, because a lot of times folks will kind of circumvent the system because it's cheaper or whatever, they want to avoid the policy. So it's having the process to be able to capture that on the front side, and then getting the travelers to participate in it. They're kind of at war with each other all the time.
Where would you say in some of these organizations that we work with, some of the biggest gaps lie?
In their programs?
Yeah.
Adherence is a huge one. Traveler education is also a huge one, which I think those two kind of go hand in hand. And then the other piece is it's having a process. And this goes back to where we come into this, but it's the understanding of the full spectrum of travel, because it doesn't begin when an individual's on their trip and they need assistance services or they need help of some sort. It starts long before they even embark on their trip, and programmatically we should have the infrastructure built for them to follow a pathway that is not burdensome for the information to be captured. Like, so many programs rely on itinerary, and even that it's not as effective as knowing even where their hotel is. Because if you know where the hotel is, well, then you're going to know where they're staying. But beyond that, it's communications. Do we have a communications process so that if somebody is experiencing something on the ground, well, do they know how to get back to us, who to report to, how do they unlock the assistance, and then can they take care of themselves when all of that is happening? So it's having that process identified across the entire spectrum. But if I had to boil it all down, I'm getting a little wordy, but if I had to boil it all down, it's looking through this program from the lens of the traveler. We're constantly looking at this through the lens of duty of care.
Yeah, right.
It's not through the lens of the traveler themselves and how they can participate in the system.
So I'd like to talk about that for a minute, because I think, especially with business travel, I think it's so important to give your employees the confidence to travel and focus on the work at hand versus all those what ifs.
Right.
That's where training comes into play. And that's one of the biggest gaps I see. I mean, I know I love training and I can nerd out on it all day long. But when I look at their training program, they're like, yeah, we have traveler training. And I'm like, okay. And I look at it, it's like a couple bullets. It's like, make sure corporate travel books your travel. Make sure if anything happens, you contact this number through this website,
phone number,
whatever.
yeah.
That's your training.
Yep.
And I'm like, hold on. What about everything else? Mm-hmm. What about situational awareness? Creating that awareness. And what I love about this type of training is it's so applicable to your everyday life. Right. I mean, before my daughter took her senior trip to Mexico, right? I'm like, no, don't go. Stay here. Like, you could go to, California. It could be nice. I don't know. But yeah, I was like, I need you to take this training, this situational awareness training, create this awareness. It applies to everybody's day to day. I just went over in Seattle and did this for an organization, and I'm like, okay, where are you traveling to? What are you doing? And they're like, no, we're really not. We kind of stay in Seattle, but we're in the downtown area, and things can get, we get met with challenges every day, just traveling from work to our vehicles or whatever it might be. And they face those challenges. And so it's like, okay, that's great. Let's start there. Let's just start there on the day to day. This travel training. I know we get stuck in this travel world, but it's so important to everybody's day to day and creating that awareness and then also just creating that confidence, because when you have that confidence and you're in a situation, you have that confidence and you're no longer that easy target that's kind of leaning back on your heels. You're kind of leaning forward, like aware of your surroundings. You know what to do if something should happen and you know how to respond. So I think that's so important.
Safety and
That's
security.
good. I think it's important for also, it kind of touched on a little bit of both those points is, if you're talking to your daughter about going to Mexico, you're going to talk about the specific dangers that she's going to face in that area. And as far as business travel goes, I think it's important for organizations and individuals to understand what threats are there, do that research before they get there. So are they going to deal with, criminal organizations? Are they going to deal with, cartels? Is it going to be terrorist organizations? Or is it even another government? Because we definitely know that one of the more probable cases for them is going to be detained, especially if they represent a large multi-billion dollar agency or company that, the most high likely thing is being detained by a foreign government. So knowing the rules and regulations, there's so much more that needs to go into that planning and preparation. Because as you said, travelers need to feel confident when they go someplace. And the more they know about the specifics of where it is that they're going, the better and the more confident they're going to feel.
Local customs are critical. I mean, there's some countries you can go into where bringing gum into the country or spitting your gum out on the street is that'll get you behind bars. It's that can't be overemphasized.
Right. And I think something that tends to get overlooked too is we're having our folks go someplace on business. They're going to travel there. We book the airline tickets, we get them a charter bus to the hotel, all that. Okay. But now what about some downtime? Are they going to go out and they're going to want to see the city? What does that travel look like for them? So educating them on how to do that too. Do you take a taxi? Do you take an Uber? Do you take public transportation? But we really have to inform our employees and our team members, what does it actually take to travel abroad? What are the risks that need to be involved? What's the awareness that you have going?
The number one incident that takes place for travelers traveling to a foreign country, is traffic incidents. And most people underestimate that. So it's getting ahead of those things, take public transportation, ask the hotel, if they have a preferred service that they use and things of that sort. Planning that out ahead of time is incredibly important. But also what's incredibly important to this program, and I think often is overlooked, is the after action reporting. So, and I know you have a lot of dealings with this. So if you wouldn't mind just speaking on this for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to process. But when you come back from a trip, if a traveler comes back from a trip, that now becomes useful in this industry. We call it intelligence, right? If we can get that information from them of their experience, let's say they even just lost their luggage or they had a basic medical issue, they got sick and they had to stay in their hotel room. Well, from a process standpoint and how did it go from their experience, we can build that back into the program and maybe mitigate some of that risk or better address it in future iterations. But same thing on the severe side of things. It's let's say somebody does experience an act of terror overseas. Let's say somebody does experience a car crash. Again, why if people dying from driving cars in foreign environments are one of the number one ways that people are dying from travel, well, how are we addressing that in our program? How are we bringing that back into how we address these things on the front side? And it's that loop. It's a system. It's not just it stops somewhere. It's we pull that information back in. But, it could be a basic survey that we give to our individuals. How'd your trip go? Did you experience any issues? Do you want to talk about it? It could be 3 questions. Make it super simple for them so that we can get that information back into the machine. And
adjust your program accordingly.
And adjust the program
Make
accordingly.
those adjustments. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, you definitely have to continue to learn from your program. That's a great point, I think, is that, even a traffic accident, that's one of, if not the most common situations that could easily lead to what feels like a crisis from an organizational standpoint is a traffic accident. One of your team members overseas, they get into a wreck, they're in the hospital, and nobody from the organization knows. There's no process there to report to. Like, well, there should be communications windows. So one of those things like build into your program is what that looks like. And then if it works, obviously, like you learn from that, you build it back into the program itself.
You know what else I'm really surprised about when we do these trainings? And like I said, that this applies to your everyday life. Yes, when you're business traveling, but also when you're just traveling for leisure too. It's register with the STEP department, the State Department, right? The STEP program.
STEP program.
So, and people are like, what is this program? And I'm like, oh, you should be doing it all the time. It's just that added insurance that if something goes wrong, your government knows where you're at. They can get a hold of you. They know how to get a hold of you. Even a natural disaster, right? They can get ahead of that. They can let you know what's going on. They're accountable for you now. And so just taking those little added measures just for your own personal safety and security is really important. So taking back some of the ownership and not just saying, well, my travel department has it. I'm sure that, they covered it. No, there's things you could do on your own as well.
Yeah. And even some recent training we've done, we've actually gotten the travel folks that book all that training involved in some of our training, which is pretty entertaining for us and them to do some role play with them so they can see exactly what it is their travelers are going to. I think it's a good thing to incorporate in the training too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are all some great points that we made, some good things for organizations to keep in mind when they're building out the programs, even the need to have a program, and making sure, like Jake had mentioned, like making sure that we keep the traveler in mind and building that confidence and educating them the best that we possibly can. It's important for organizations to take care of the people the best they can. They have that duty of care. And just because they're out of sight, out of mind, they're overseas somewhere conducting business, it doesn't necessarily make them no longer your responsibility. So let's make sure our people are being taken care of. If there's any way you want help building out some of that or taking a look at your program to see how you could better facilitate that, reach out and give us a call and we can help you out. So make sure you do all the things, like, subscribe, all of those things, and tune in. And I hope you tune in for our next video. How's that?